Es que también esa es la peor parte. No lo traducen. No es cierto, neta. Y luego justo lo que iba a hacer, ¿no? Chingada. Y no, qué pedo.
Just enter your domain, click scan,
Puta, y luego esto.
and get a personalized UX to-do list in minutes.
Dice. Dice.
I am starting to think that this guy could be the guy. I'm not there yet, but after today's speech and him taking all those questions, I'm feeling good.
Just a few things at the outset, just about what I've learned today and what I'm trying to do here. First of all, I want to give a shout out.
Gotta catch them all.
To the Enunciation. Okay, this is not a video I ever thought I'd be making, but I think it's the right time to just put it all out there. You see, I've been creating content on TikTok for the last 5 years. I've posted thousands of videos, generated tens of billions of views. I've got 18 million followers on the platform. Hell, last month I was at ByteDance's headquarters, all the way over in China. But in that time, I have noticed some truly strange things that I've never witnessed on any other platform.
TikTok actually decides what news reaches viewers and which news doesn't. What TikTok is doing is against EU law.
And I'll be honest, for the longest time, I didn't want to share any of this publicly because it is literal self-sabotage. You see, according to TikTok's own terms and conditions, which you can read, it's in plain English, you may not make any derogatory public comment or statement concerning. Okay, this is not a video, but some serious problems need to be highlighted that are forcing some of the platform's largest and up-and-coming creators off of the platform for good. And I don't want that to happen. So, I think we should stop the yapping and let's get cracking.
Hey, bud. Just heading there now.
Look, before you turn this off, before you start typing a comment about how I'm defending monsters, just listen. I know how this sounds. In your Western schools, you're taught that Hitler was the ultimate evil, the final boss of history, and in many ways you're right. But there is a difference between being a loud, violent storm and being a slow, freezing winter. I grew up in the aftermath of that winter. I lived in the architecture it built. I ate the food it produced, and I watched the people it shaped. I'm not here to talk about who killed more people. That is a lecture for accountants and hell. I want to talk to you about control, about how you own a human being. Most people react before they think when I say that the Soviet system achieved a level of control Hitler could only dream of. They think I'm trying to rank horrors. I'm not. I'm comparing mechanisms. It's like comparing a high-strung sports car that crashes at 200 miles per hour to a rusted tank that just keeps rolling over everything in its path for 70 years. One is a spectacle, the other is an environment. And once you understand the difference, you will start to see the Soviet method showing up in your own world, in places you never expected. Think about Hitler for a moment. What do you see? You see rallies, you see red banners, you see a man screaming until his veins pop. Everything about the Nazi system was intense. It was a high-voltage wire. It demanded that you believe. It demanded that you love the leader, hate the enemy, and feel a burning pride in your blood every single morning. This is a very powerful way to run a country, but it has a massive flaw that we Russians understood instinctively. It exhausts the soul. You cannot keep a population at a level 10 emotional intensity forever. You just can't. Eventually, the heart gets tired. The adrenaline runs out. To keep people controlled, Hitler had to keep finding new enemies, new spectacles, new wars. He had to to keep the music playing louder and louder, because the moment the music stopped, people would wake up and realize they were standing in a graveyard. The Nazi system never disappeared into the background. You always knew where the state ended and you began, even if you were terrified of it. It was a predator in the room with you. You could see it. You could hear it breathing. Now, look at the Soviet Union. My grandfather didn't love the system. My father didn't love the system. By the 70s, almost nobody loved the system, and the system, it didn't care. This is the first thing you have to understand about real, deep control. Belief is optional. The Soviet system didn't need you to be a fanatic. In fact, fanatics were dangerous because they were unpredictable. What the system wanted was adjustment. It didn't want your heart, it wanted your habits. I remember the kitchen culture in Russia. In public, you say the slogans. You went to the May Day parade. You clapped when the board official finished his 3-hour speech. You didn't do it because you believed. You did it like you brush your teeth. It was just something you did so your life didn't rot. But when you went home, you sat in a cramped kitchen with 3 friends, drank tea, and told the most horizontal dark jokes about the government. You felt free in that kitchen.
Dos almas que se unieron para crear historia. El gran sabor de una cerveza indio y un fino toque de agave. Nueva Indio Agave.
Me van a meter en un pinche fucking strike.
The building. The state owned the tea. The state owned your job. It let you have your little kitchen rebellion because it knew that as long as you adjusted in the morning, your private pots didn't matter. Hitler wanted to be your god. The Soviet Union was just your landlord, and you can ignore a god, but you have to pay the landlord every single month, or you are on the street. In the West, you have this romantic idea of the dissident, the hero who stands up and says no and gets arrested. You think that this is the ultimate struggle. But let me tell you what is worse than being arrested: being ignored. If the Nazi police arrested you for a pamphlet, they were telling you that your ideas were dangerous. They were confirming your importance. In a sick way, they were respecting you. They were saying you're a threat to us. In the Soviet system, if you tried to resist in the wrong way, often nothing happened. You just slowly realized that you couldn't get a promotion. Your son couldn't get into the good university. The plumber would never come to fix your sink. You weren't a heroic rebel. You were just a difficult person. The system didn't crush you. It just made your life very, very inconvenient until you corrected yourself. I remember a story of a man who tried to protest a local factory's pollution. He didn't get sent to the gulag. He just got called into a series of meetings where people looked at him with pity. They asked him if he was feeling okay. They suggested he was overworked. They treated his dissent like mental illness, like a fever that would pass. When you punish a man, you acknowledge his agency. When you treat him with indifference, you take his humanity. The USSR trained us to believe that effort was pointless, that initiative was a symptom of instability, that the safest way to live was to be a grey person in a grey coat in a grey city. This is the part that Westerners never understand. You talk about propaganda as if it's a job to deceive people. You think that if a lie is obvious, it has failed. In Russia, we know that the most effective lies are the ones everyone knows are lies. When the newspaper Pravda, which literally means truth, wrote that the grain harvest was the largest in history and you were standing in a 2-hour line for a loaf of bread, the state wasn't trying to trick you. They knew you weren't stupid. They knew you could see the empty shelves. The point of the lie was to see if you would not. If I can make you stand there and agree that the sun is blue, I own you. Not because I deceived you, but because I have broken your relationship with your own eyes. I have forced you to participate in your own humiliation. Once you have clapped for a lie you know is a lie, you lose your moral standing to rebel. You're a collaborator now. This created a psychological state we call vranyo. It's a specific kind of Russian line. I know you're lying. You know I know you're lying. I know you know I know. But we both keep a straight face because that is how the game is played. Hitler tried to replace the truth. The Soviet system just made the truth irrelevant. And once truth is irrelevant, you don't need secret police on every corner. Every citizen becomes their own secret policeman. By the time I was a teenager, I didn't need anyone to tell me what not to say. I had an internal
Hey.
sensor that was more efficient than any KGB officer. It wasn't a voice saying, don't say that, it's dangerous. It was more like a physical sensation, a tightening in the throat. You learned to train your thoughts before they even reached your conscious mind. You stopped imagining what if, because imagination without the possibility of action is just a form of torture. This is the level of control Hitler never reached. He wanted to mobilize masses. The Soviet Union wanted to atomize the masses. They wanted you to feel that you were the only one who felt this way, that everyone else truly believed the slogans. I remember looking at my classmates during a mandatory assembly. We were all staring at the floor. I thought, they all believe this, and am I the only one who sees the joke? But they were all thinking the same thing about me. We were 1,000 people in a room, all feeling completely alone. That is how you prevent a revolution. Not with machine guns, but with a feeling of total, absolute isolation. Look at what happened when the system died. When Nazi Germany fell, it was like a glass bottle hitting a clay floor. Smash. It was over. The rupture was total. The people had to face what they had done because the spectacle has ended so violently. But when the Soviet Union collapsed in 1991, it didn't smash. It dissolved. The flag changed, the statues fell, but the people didn't change. How could they? You can't undo 70 years of adjustment with a new constitution. The habits remained, the internal sense remained, the expectation that power is a force of nature you cannot change remained. This is why post-Soviet societies was so chaotic. People were free, but they had no idea how to be agents of their own lives. They had been trained for generations to be survivors, not authors. If you spend your whole life in a dark room and someone suddenly opens the door to the sun, you don't run outside and dance. You cover your eyes and scream because the light hurts. Hitler built a cult that died with him. The Soviet Union built a psychological ecosystem that still lives inside millions of people today, including those who weren't even born when the wall fell. It's a ghost that haunts the way we trust, the way we work, and the way we look at the future. I tell you this because I see people today, especially in the West, who think that control is always loud. They look for the man in the uniform, the literally Hitler figure. But you're looking for the wrong monster. Real control doesn't need a uniform. It doesn't need to scream. Real control is when you stop expecting things to get better. It's when you accept a tolerable level of unhappiness because it's safer than the chaos of change. It's when you learn to live in the gray and call it maturity. Hitler was a fever. The Soviet Union was the blood. A fever can kill you, yes, but the blood is who you are. And that is why the quiet system is always more dangerous. It doesn't want to kill you. It wants to keep your life just enough to make sure you never, ever move. Don't mistake.
Oops. Oh well. Such a shame. What else? Who else? ¿Todavía queda un tiro? Pues qué día es hoy, hoy es viernes. Creo que son esos porque aquí no hay Black Manda.
Supergirl.
Entonces es Gatúbela con Grodd. Reducir Superman. Todavía da más daño después del Superman. Entonces ya quedaría Robin.
Robin.
Ay, sí, mejor esto.
Supergirl.
Entonces sí, pone esto. Uy, luego en fase 2, qué horrible. Entonces espérate. Uy. Chale, se me hace que sí. No. Beep.
Phase 2. Begin. Resistance is pointless.
Chingado.
Resistance is pointless.
Ay, güey, me bloqueó el reflejo, hijo de perro. Hola. No, por la verga. Interesante, a ver. ¿Qué va a hacer? No, si no es para qué sirve tanto. Se me hace que se iban a super bien. No me deja avanzar.